Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Got something a little bit different for you today. This is an interview I filmed on Zoom just the other day with someone who I find really interesting to listen to. I need your feedback though, whether it's something to have more of or less of in the channel in future, so please leave a comment below whether you liked it, disliked it, just let me know. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Hi Stan, thanks for joining us.
Right, Tom, all right?
Yeah, very good, thanks. How's things?
Yeah, not bad. All quiet and steady and plenty of time with the kids and stuff. Yeah.
Lockdown life, eh?
Yeah, it is pretty locked down here.
Yeah. So Stan, for the sake of people who may not know who you are, just give us a little bit of background of who you are, what you've done, where you come from, and what motorbikes are to you and what they mean to you.
Yeah, obviously my name's Stan Watt, sort of, pushing on the dark side of 50 now. And and I suppose probably been around bikes for, seems like a long time since I was a kid, been brought up on the farm in Ireland. Left there pretty early on in life and came over here at 16 and joined the military. So I joined the Royal Marines. Ended up down in Dorset and didn't realise at the time the Marines have got an enduro team. So my sort of trike skills and bike skills sort of dropped onto that when I was in the Royal Marines a little bit. And so I did quite a long time with them and always been interested in bikes. Started racing sort of short circuit here in roughly 93 on an FZR 600 Yamaha. Then did that for a few years, club racing, did a little bit of road racing over in Ireland, back and forth, and played around a little bit. And then it got a little bit more serious mid-90s on the Suzukis and the 600s, and then the thousands came and pretty much like that. So it just sort of goes on and on. So spent a bit of time. I was down in South Africa a few years, raced for Ducati in Cape Town, and did the Roof of Africa a few times down there when I was living down there. And so I can't say it's been that bad, to be honest. So
You've had some nice experiences by the sound of it.
yeah, I've been pretty fortunate, to be honest. Yeah.
So as well, you've completed the Dakar. How many times? You've done the Dakar Rally. How many times?
Yeah, we did it 3 times and luckily finished 3 times. And
not many people with that finishing record.
No, I've been pretty fortunate. So we tried to go in 2008, but it got cancelled sort of on the morning that we were meant to be setting off. So then everything moved to South America after that. So now Saudi. So.
Yeah. So do you still follow it then, by the sound of things?
Yeah. Obviously, it makes it more interesting when there's some guys that are actually competing this year. Pretty good. Sam Sunderland, sort of local boy.
Yeah.
Down south there, obviously Jimmy McCanny from the Isle of Man, and then obviously David Knight and Neil Hawker, who I know pretty well. So yeah, that makes it more interesting to see how they're getting on, and a few guys who I've known over the years when I was doing the sort of World Championships and cross country and that, who are obviously still hanging in there and racing Dakar and rallying. So it's good to see them still at it over and over. And I take a good interest in all the off-road racing, to be honest, and the road stuff. So
yeah, it's not just a job for you. Then it is a real passion.
Yeah. Like, to be honest, you couldn't do what I'm doing without actually liking it. So it's good, and it's good to see people coming on and trying different things. Obviously for the guys this year, Jimmy McCanny and Sam are starting to get a lot of experience. Sam, they're going well. They're quick guys, and it's good for Niter and Neil to finish the first one and decide what they go on to then, because it gets a bit addictive actually, the rallying.
Yeah. So to try and put a bit of context in it, I saw an interview with you where you said after finishing one of the Dakars in South America, you said it's not the hardest race in the world, but it does seem pretty difficult.
Yeah, I think like I say to anyone, we get asked quite a bit on how to go about it. We're sort of helping a few guys at the minute sort of start the initial process of rallying. And I think the big thing is it's not the hardest race in the world when it comes to physicality or technical difficulty. It does encompass everything. It's a slightly different. It's a draining race rather than a big impact race. So I think, and I've been pretty fortunate. I had it at a good time. I can navigate pretty well. So there's a lot of stresses that I probably didn't have, and that maybe a lot of guys do when they start getting lost a little bit. And again, if you're putting in your own money, and it's a big commitment to not finish, and again, it's a different stress where you have to finish because obviously everything's been put in the. I didn't have that risk to a degree, so that sort of helps as well if you can take as many problems out of it before you start. So I didn't find in the hardest races potentially physically or mentally, but there's a lot that can go wrong because you're racing for 2 weeks. So
Yeah, absolutely. So just to stay on that point, if it's not the hardest race, what is the hardest race in your opinion?
It's probably the hardest races are probably the ones that you're not particularly good at. So I think if that makes sense. So I've been very lucky. I've tried a bit of everything. I was able to do British Enduro Championships. I've been able to do a few events in the World Extreme Series, and not being the most technical guy in the world. And when I was a bit younger, I had to rely on strength and everything else that comes with it. So something like, Hell's Gate down in Italy, the Romaniacs back when I did it, it was a pretty difficult event at the time. From a physical point of view, because again, you've got the worries that you're not the most technical rider in the world when there's other guys that are a lot more competent and you're trying to compete against them. So I think them events I found physically demanding because of my ability rather than anything else, So
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to the Dakar for a second, what's your best and worst Dakar moment that you've had?
I suppose everyone, you've got to go down the line that finishing them is not a bad moment. I think depending, obviously it's maybe different now. There were a little bit of an anticlimax because you sort of turned up at the finish line. They handed you a medal and you moved on because they're waiting on the sort of top guys sort of coming through in the bikes and the cars. So I think as Joe blogs, even though we had some nice results, we sort of further down the pecking order. So I think with the Dakar, I would say to anyone, the hardest bit's getting to the start, and there's a lot of pressure, stress, whatever way you want to put it, but a lot of time kicking heels, ready to get going, and when you're prepared and you've been working hard to get to the start, you just want to get rolling. And once things are rolling, it becomes a little bit less pressure on, you're just, you're riding every day. And I say to a lot of guys, you got to like riding a bike because you're going to be on it pretty much all day, every day for a couple of weeks, and all the preparation before. So if you don't like riding the bike or the boredom of sitting for 6, 7, 8, 900 kilometers on a road of tarmac at 100 kilometers an hour, then it's probably not the event, So they do drain you down. So, and I think some of the worst ones, you could be having a great day, you take a bit of a tumble or a big tumble, and then suddenly the panic comes in that you're not actually going to finish the stage. You're not going to get in to finish the day. And I think that's the ups and downs of an event like that and how you deal with it. So I've been lucky to have some big old yeehas and got away with it and damaged the bike and damaged myself a little bit, but not enough that we couldn't get in at the end of the day and then get everything repaired and go again, So it's, I suppose, luck or whatever way you want to put it. There's a little bit of that comes with it, So.
Yeah, of course. Forgive me, I'm going to ask this question. So one of my followers online asked me to ask this. During the Dakar stage, what do you do if you need a poo?
You're just going to have to stop or try and make it to a refuel stage. So, like I said, the Dakars come up along a lot. Probably even from when I was doing it, sort of 6, 7 years ago to when you talk to the guys that have been around before that, it was a big adventure orientated. The top guys were racing. The facilities that are in place now are just, I think personally second to none. So when you get to the refuel spots, there's toilets, there's food available to you, there's water. So if you can get to the refuel, then that's probably the moment to take it, But to be honest, for the sake of having a dump for a few minutes on a race that's so long, unless you're really running up front or you're in desperate measures, then it's probably pull over to the side, out the way, and crack on, I would say, yeah. Always carry some tissues.
Didn't learn that the hard way then.
Yeah.
Staying on the Dakar for another moment as well. With it being like it is, or perhaps even just any off-road rallying, can you see electric bikes being a viable solution to racing at that sort of level?
I think obviously we're not there yet. I think, to be honest, something's going to have to change long term anyway, and that technology will come. And to be honest, once they go electric, the Dakar will probably change to suit it, if you know what I mean. So I think there's a hydro truck going in next year to give it a go. So, something will change. It's got to, I think, for everybody, and everyone acknowledges it, no matter how much they want to fight it. But I think obviously cars will probably come first with the ability to carry the sort of duration, and then obviously as technology improves and it comes into the bikes. But I think at some stage, we're quite a way away yet, but I think, we will be, maybe see it in my lifetime that will be all on electric or hydro or something. So
We'll wait and see, eh?
Yeah.
So since the Dakar, what have you done? I can see you wearing your nice Rotor Adventures t-shirt then.
Yeah. So no, we've been still pretty active. It's for me, obviously, like since Dakar, we were due to go and do another one, which never came off. We got involved with the car rally inside of it, did a couple of WRCs as a navigator with a view of coming back to the Dakar on that. And we've been helping quite a few guys from a navigation point of view and developing them for heading off to do some of the smaller rallies and Dakar itself. So we've been built, over the last few years, we've built a number of road books in the local area here for guys to train on, or as a bit of a pastime for them to come along, jump on a bike and go navigate for a little while. But again, still racing, still doing a little bit of local stuff, British Championships and sprints and that. The last sort of year or so has been a little bit difficult for everybody. But to be honest, at the minute when everything's sort of going as normal, I'm riding sort of 4 or 5 times a week anyway, between obviously with the business and Rotor Adventures, which we sort of kicked off properly in 2018. And I'd sort of bought back a business that I was involved in originally about 15 years before and incorporated that. So, and what we've been building since is a sort of good all-round off-road school for all forms of motorcycles, all forms of ability. We sort of got some good partners on board with Crescent Yamaha down south here in Dorset at Fairwood, and then with Yamaha UK and Michelin, and just started putting good packages together that we think people are interested in, and to develop riders and give them an opportunity to go from literally no riding at all or very little to getting into enduro, rallying, big trail rides, adventure bikes. So everything off-road, to be honest. And then, we've got the sort of small facilities in northern Spain and southern Portugal, which are particularly good, which we were looking at developing a bit further with the guys out there last year. And obviously we haven't been back since. So hopefully we'll get back there this year. Yeah. So
yeah, fingers crossed for you.
Yeah.
You're saying about bringing on new starters into off-road and enduro. What's your sort of, give us a few tips for someone that does want to start, does want to get into, either motocross, enduro, even if it's just green laning, that kind of thing? Yeah,
I think the big thing is, I think it's like with any event, anything you're going to go and do, is just making the decision to get started, and I think probably have a go before you commit big time. And then when you decide, that is something I want to do, it's probably buying the right bike for what you're actually going to do. A lot of people, when you first start off-roading and off-road motorcycling, then you develop pretty quick. If you take on to it and you enjoy it, then you tend to do it a lot. So what they tend to do is go out and buy maybe a bike that might suit them now for the next week. They're bored and away they go again. So there's a little bit of sort of wasted revenue, for want of a better term. And I think it's just the understanding that it's not an expensive sport if you're looking at road racing or circuit racing or anything like that. But there is a financial input that's needed. And but to be honest, the bikes are getting better and better. So we're seeing a lot more older bikes that are lasting the term better than you would have done, 10 years ago. So I think the quality's better. I don't think there's really a bad bike out there these days. But there's some of them are pretty expensive, So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I don't think there isn't a bike that does everything. So I think if it was an ideal world, you'll have a few bikes to cover all the aspects of off-road. And so, we've got some good customers here now, from a year, 18 months ago, they've got a trials bike, they've got an enduro bike, they've got an adventure bike, and they're having a go at everything, so, which is nice to see,
Yeah, so you were saying about just get involved and have a go first before having the financial impact. Is that something you guys offer at Rotor Adventures, to come and have a go?
Yeah, and that's something we've been developing more and more, really, and taking on a different range of bikes. So probably the main workhorses are the WR250F Yamaha. So we sort of change them every year just to keep everything fresh, and the T700 adventure bike, Tenere. And then we've sort of invested a bit more with the smaller bikes, the TTR 125s and the WR 125Rs, to give people a bit of an idea what's available to them in a range. Yes, we've partnered with Yamaha, so obviously there's a lot more out there, but it gives them a good range from youth riders coming through at 10, 11 years old, through the system onto something a little bit bigger, and then obviously the race bikes and that. So, and we help a few guys out with the racing, and this year we're looking at taking a couple of teams to the International 6 Days. So I'll be back racing myself a little bit, So
yeah, fantastic. It's good to hear. A few quick fire questions for you before we round up as well. What's the best bike you've ridden?
Oof. Right. I suppose it all depends on time and that one. Probably I was very fortunate to ride a J6RRR MotoGP bike for 15 laps, which was a pretty impressive thing to do at the time. So, and obviously couldn't get as much out of it as the guys, but no, I would say probably for me, it probably had to be the 450 Rally KTM, moving from the 690s and the 700s we were riding onto something that, which is obviously now it's fuel injected, a much more modern bike, was pretty impressive at the time, and a huge development as they changed the engine size to 450. Very reliable, handled well. Yeah, it's got to be pretty well up there, So
Nice. What's the worst injury you've had?
Yeah, probably actually one of the ones that stopped my road racing career, which was down at Snetterton on the start-finish straight. We were slipstreaming a couple of slower riders in qualifying, and then I went up the outside. Another guy that was in front of me came up the inside, and the back of his bike touched my front handlebar, or my front brake. So that shocked me off at about 170. And just where the accident happened at the British Superbikes, then obviously there's no air fencing along the side where I got shot off to. So
yeah,
I broke sort of 6 vertebrae and damaged my neck a little bit and shoulders. So
wow,
yeah,
very unfortunate.
Yeah, I was lucky because I sort of flat spun down the side of the track, hitting the tire wall, and then shot on underneath the airbag at the bottom. So yeah, so it was interesting, but that probably sort of stopped me for a while and slowed me up a little bit, and I never really went back to it too heavily after that. So, and
that's a very humble way to look at it, though.
Yeah, no, to be honest, lucky to get away with it. You got to sort of go. I had a good crash rate when I was sort of short circuit racing, so you're sort of happy to get up and walk away from it. So it took a little bit of recovery time, about 18 months or so, but yeah, time to move on. So
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what's your greatest motorcycling achievement?
Don't think I've had any.
I disagree.
Yeah. Uh, there's probably been a couple. I've been fairly fortunate with the racing I've been doing. Probably from a rallying point of view, it's something that sort of sat with me pretty well from the start. And when we did the World Championships for sort of 3-4 years, regularly, it's nice to finish regularly in the podium with factory riders, and we had potentially some really good finishes at the Dakar, and if they'd all gone the way it should be. But it's nice to sort of, when you look back as you get a little bit older, it's nice to say I've been able to finish. I think I've not finished one race. I've only had one race years and years ago that I didn't finish through a mechanical. And from a dirt bike perspective, I've been able to finish all the big races I went to, the world rounds and enduro. The extreme events, I've always dragged myself over the line one way or the other. So, probably. And even the last Dakar I did with Tim Foreman, there was a few messages bouncing back and forth because it's that time of year. That was a good event where I think he finished 25th, I finished 24th or something like that. So it was a nice little finish to start together and sort of finish together about a minute apart after 2 weeks. So, that was probably one of the highlights, to be honest. So.
Brilliant. And to round up then, just give us a little bit of snippet of what you're looking forward to this year with motorbikes, if we get a chance.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll be rolling at some point. I think for me is obviously we'll develop what we're doing from an off-road perspective. We've provisionally put 2 teams forward to the ACU to go to the International 6 days. So there's a bit of an old boys team, which I'm part of. So we'll be, and to be honest, we've already started training for that and getting the guys together. Tonight we've got a Zoom call at 7:30. So everything from training, nutrition, and once we get back going, then we'll be getting together to train, not just on bikes, but physically and mentally to get the guys right for that. So we've got a younger team and obviously an older team going over, getting bikes ready. So that's probably the plans in place for that already. Hoping to get back over to Spain, do a little bit of cross-country racing with the guys in northern Spain and down to Portugal. We do some big tours over there, sort of 1,200-mile off-road tours from Portugal up to northern Spain. So that's good to develop them a little bit further. And and really take it as it comes, try and get a bit more racing. And we'll be doing the British Championships sort of if everything goes to plan. So I'm hoping by August the 6 days will go ahead and we'll get to go and play at that. And
well, we'll be cheering you on if it does happen.
Yeah.
Stan, just to round up, let us know, where can we keep in touch with you? Facebook, Instagram, etc.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, it's at Rotor Adventures, and obviously rotoradventures.com on the website. So there's always something kicking about, and we've sort of stuck provisionally dates out for riding in March, but the closer it starts to get to it, the less likely it's looking to happen. So there's plenty going on there, and as things happen, it all gets published on there, and you'll get the odd magazine, like we've just been in the Trail magazine for the TRF this with the Ladies Only Day, and which has been pretty successful, and motorcycle news and stuff. So we're kicking around all over the place, and we'll be up at the Adventure Bike Festival hopefully in June up in Rugby Park. So plenty going on there.
Nice. Stan, thanks very much for joining us once again. Take care, and we hope to speak to you soon.
Look after yourself, Tom. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.